Seems like a long time ago now, but when this pandemic lockdown began in mid-March, people flocked to the stores to scoop up all the toilet paper, hand sanitizers, baking flour, and meat. People behaved as though the world was about to come to an end. As it turned out, the panic buying was totally unnecessary, yet that was what a lot of people did. There are lots of silly things that fully rational human beings do to make a fool of themselves. We heard about our prime minister who used a charity for his family's personal benefit, the mayor of Seoul who lived an exemplary life fighting for justice and women's rights as an attorney and as a mayor of the city was accused of sexual harassment by various women. Rather than facing justice, he then took his own life. The list of foolish things that people do go on and on and on. Paul, in writing to the church in Rome, speaks of a great challenge which we human beings encounter. Paul particularly singles out the problem of flesh. He does not condemn the human body as a whole, but the things of the flesh. And Paul understood the problem this way, as he says in Romans chapter 7, verse 15. He said, I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. What could he have meant? One insight comes to us from neurologists and social scientists who have pointed out that we have a limbic brain, which also contains so-called reptilian brain that also resides within us. This part of the brain is considered the oldest part of our brain that helps us with survival. The reptilian brain is really good at noticing things like fear. It triggers the fight or flight response. It is also hardwired for feeding and fornicating. Some call these the 4 F's of the reptilian brain's trait. So we have that mechanism happening within us that can override other brain functions. For example, if we sense danger, then the brain automatically triggers a response by pumping adrenaline into our bodies so that we can either fight or run away. This mechanism helps us to survive, but it can also cause problems as pumping adrenaline into our bodies results in stress, which causes all kinds of stress-induced illnesses. Similarly, this reptilian brain, in its pursuit of survival, makes people want to pursue more and more money, political power, self-centered behavior, and survival at all cost mentality. These could seriously degrade us into us against them political agenda, hoarding unjust amount of money, abuse of power in order to maintain social advantage, as well as gross social inequality. If unchecked, then society can become rotten to the core, which the ancient prophets were decrying against. The prophets were warning the nation, you have to change your ways, otherwise such societies crumble and fall, which did happen in ancient Israel and everywhere else. During this time of the pandemic lockdown, without sports or entertainment to distract us, we were able to observe the ills of this society much more closely. We see the ineptness of the leadership from the United States, Brazil, and Russia in their response to the pandemic. We also saw the racism at work along with the police brutality. As painful as it was to witness the death of George Floyd, his death has forced the nation to examine the sins of racism. Millions of people have finally woken up to say, we don't want to live in this kind of world anymore. Thanks to the Black Lives Matter movement, the monuments built for the generals who fought for slavery are coming down. Confederate flag got banned in NASCAR races after the only black racer, Bubba Wallace, called for its removal. After a noose was found in his garage, his fellow racers supported him. The state flag of Mississippi, which has the Confederate flag in one corner, will also change. The NFL football team in Washington, D.C. is in the process of finally changing their team name, the team name, which is Redskins, after all the years of refusal and resistance. It is quite amazing how the times have dramatically changed. I also heard that the CFL team, Edmonton Eskimos, will also change their name. The name Eskimo is considered derogatory because it was given by non-Inuit people and was said to mean eater of raw meat. Even the army bases in the southern United States, which are named after Confederate generals, will have a review. It is quite unbelievable all these changes are taking place. It looks as though a new wind is blowing and changes are coming. Theologically, what Paul says is that those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on the things of the Spirit. So if we align our minds to the Spirit, then instead of fighting one another for resources, we could learn to cooperate and help one another. We would treat one another with respect and dignity, the way we want to be treated. We would realize that if we live by the code of the reptilian brain, then we would treat everyone else as competitors and treat them with suspicion in the game of survival of the fittest. Ultimately, Paul says, when we set the mind on the flesh, it leads to death, but to set the mind on the flesh is life and peace. We are at a very important junction in human history, not only because we have this pandemic, but also because of the looming climate catastrophe. It seems as though every year we are experiencing another heat record. In June, Siberia had a temperature of 38 degrees, and they are in the Arctic Circle. And they are having a huge forest fire that is releasing massive amounts of greenhouse gas. Certainly, humanity will need to focus on higher goals and solve the climate crisis, work towards peace, repent racism, and create a just society where all will be treated with respect and dignity. I really believe that we can accomplish this because when our hearts are aligned to the Spirit, surely God will be with us. God will help us to get there. Thanks be to God.